Alright guys, it is that time of the year where every technologically inclined eye looks up at Apple to see what kind of innovations Apple is going to bring via its new iPhone launch. Well, September is here and the iPhones are launched, and thankfully they are named iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro. Well, I think this launch is very special, not necessarily because of the specs, because specs are something that we have been seeing via various speculations and rumors that were spread all across the internet, and it seems most of those rumors and specifications are actually going to be incorporated in these devices. This launch is special because it is giving us an insight as to how the business strategies are functioning inside of Apple right now. In this video, I am going to discuss those business strategies with reference to the iPhone 11, or to put it even more precisely, the $699 iPhone 11. I'll be making a separate video about iPhone 11 Pro, so stay tuned for that. But let's just go ahead and see what are the business side of things in this iPhone launch. Stay tuned. So why am I calling this launch so special? Not of course because of the specs, right? Because there's nothing so special about the specs. iPhone 11 is actually a refreshed model of the previous iPhone models that we have seen in previous launches by Apple. So why is this launch so interesting? Because many people went into the launch event with an understanding that the new iPhone that is going to be delivered at a price at which previous iterations of iPhones have been launched, that is around $749. But when they saw that the new iPhone 11 will be available for $699, everyone went into thinking mode as to what is happening. Why is this a sudden price cut that we are seeing in iPhone 11? So all across internet forums, people have been speculating as to why that is. So I decided, why not address this question once and for all. And the reason why this is happening is something that we can see and have an insight as to how big corporations like Apple are operating right now. In order to understand that, let's first look into what happens if Apple suddenly decides to reduce just $1 from its base launch price. So let's pull up a chart, shall we? In the chart, you can see that Apple's iPhone XR was one of the highest grossing phone of the first half of 2019 in terms of the shipments that were shipped. So if I reduce just $1 from the base price of $749, which was its launch price, then it's very easy to see that Apple will be losing like $26.9 million on just one phone. Now, in this launch, the amount that has been deducted is $50. So what is going to happen if we just pull up the same estimates? I know these are not going to be the exact figures, but we can estimate things like this. And also, mind you, this is just the data of first half of 2019. So let's just estimate everything about 6 months only. So if we take the same data about the shipments that we can predict are going to be shipped for iPhone 11 as well, and if we literally do the math, Apple is leaving like $1.3 billion over onto the table. $1.3 billion. Our minds cannot comprehend billion. I want you to understand that. Whenever I say billions, our mind goes blank, right? Anyways, not the point. So now you might be thinking, $1.3 billion. Well, it's a $1 billion company and it doesn't matter. Things are not as easy as that. I want you to understand, when you are dealing with a company, if you are an executive of a company that is as big as Apple, there are so many different factors that you need to incorporate before you take any business decision, especially a crucial decision like bringing the prices down. So what may be the precise reasons that may have driven this decision to bring the prices down to the point that we are seeing right now? Well, here are the few reasons that I think may be something that may be driving this thing. So the first reason is Apple has finally decided to pay heed to the market. Let me explain you what I mean by that. When other companies such as Samsung, Xiaomi, OnePlus are bringing their flagship phones and they are saying that okay, this is our flagship phone that costs $600, this is our flagship phone that costs $450, Apple suddenly comes out and says boom, this is our $1,000 phone, it has everything, go ahead and buy it. There is a kind of tendency in Apple to drive the market, and that is fine. Right now, with the very way technology has been evolving, the very way hardwares that go inside a smartphone are easily available, people have suddenly so many different options that they can put their hands on, that they can have in their hands, and not to mention at relatively cheaper prices than what they are receiving from Apple. So suddenly maybe Apple is realizing that people are having so many different options, and if it just brings its price down to a mid-range segment, it may provide a alternate expression for people to actually come to an understanding that they may have an Apple device if they can just tweak their budget a little bit. So maybe that is one of the reasons why that is happening. Another reason that I think is happening, and this is coming from consumers' point of view, is that Apple's perception in consumers' mind is now taking a shift. Because with various different things that have come out, the first thing at the top of my head is about the Apple apology that Apple released, apologizing that yes, it used to slow down phones in order to conserve the battery. Events like that, people have started to have a skeptic eye towards Apple and its product. So again, people are now looking into various different other options that they can have at the same price bracket or relatively less price bracket. So that is one other reason that people have in their minds, and because of which they may and they are eventually shifting and seeing what are other different areas when it comes to smartphones that they can tap into apart from the Apple ecosystem. And the third thing, and I think this is one of the most viable reasons as to why this price cut decision has taken place. In order to understand that, I want you to understand how big businesses operate. Big businesses are not like an elephant that just has one trunk. Big businesses are like octopus, tapping into various different aspects of market to expand their business. When it comes to Apple, one of those legs. One of those legs of that octopus are Apple services. Yes, Apple Music, iCloud storage, Apple News, Apple Arcade. Services like this have been growing at a rate of 13% if sources are to be believed. So Apple service business is growing like anything, and Apple is eventually tapping into that revenue as well. Now look at what is happening. If you bring the price of your flagship phone down such that you can now cater to a larger audience, to a wider audience, you can now allow your flagship phone to act as a funnel, and when the audience is now tapped into that funnel or directed into their funnel, you can find alternate ways of generating revenue via Apple services. So yes, when you see it directly, it seems like Apple is just leaving money on the table. But if the funnel is good enough, if the audience that are being tapped is good enough, if somehow you can bring the mid-range smartphone loving audience to Apple's side, you can now create alternate revenue sources via Apple services. So what on paper seems like a loss can actually be a real big profit, if you can believe that. Incredible decision making, and yes, this is something that businesses do in order to see what are the various dimensions that they can tap into to increase their revenues. Well, if you are having a business and if you are someone who runs a business, this is something that you can learn, that good business, great businesses are not just something that rely on one specific source or one specific product. They eventually branch out into different things so that they can even things out and generate alternate sources of revenue. So that was all when it comes to the business side of things, or business implications or business strategies that are taking taking place right now when it comes to Apple and its launch and the new iPhones that have come up. What are your perceptions? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions of the topic? Feel free to comment it out in the comment section below. This was my perception when it comes to iPhone 11. Very soon I'm going to make a video on iPhone 11 Pro as well, so stay tuned for that. Till that time guys, you take care of yourselves and I'm going to see you very soon. Namaskar.